What happens when the unity of a rising empire is not broken by foreign enemies, but torn apart from within? It is the year 656. In less than 3 decades since the death of Muhammad, the Arab armies had built one of the fastest-growing empires in history. From the sands of Arabia, they now ruled vast lands stretching from Persia to Egypt. The promise of unity under a single faith and a single community had become the foundation of this expansion, and yet at the very height of this success, the empire was plunged into civil war. Brother fought against brother. Political authority crumbled. Questions of leadership, justice, and legitimacy shook the Muslim community to its core. This was the first great trial, the First Islamic Civil War. At its center stood 2 figures: Ali ibn Abi Talib, cousin and son-in-law of Muhammad, and Muawiya ibn Abi Sufyan, the powerful governor of Syria. Their struggle was not just a contest for political power. It was a conflict over the very future of the Muslim world. When Muhammad died in the year 632, he left behind no clear instructions for succession. The question of leadership was urgent. Within hours of his death, a group of leading companions gathered in the city of Medina and chose Abu Bakr as the first successor, or caliph, of the community. Abu Bakr's rule was brief, lasting only 2 years, but it was decisive. He faced rebellions across Arabia in what came to be called the Wars of Apostasy. Many tribes attempted to break away after Muhammad's death, refusing to pay taxes or denying the new leadership. Through a combination of military campaigns and negotiation, Abu Bakr preserved the fragile unity of the Muslim community and ensured the survival of the state. After him came Umar ibn al-Khattab, whose 10-year leadership transformed the Muslims from a regional Arabian polity into a world empire. Under Umar's direction, Arab armies conquered Syria, Iraq, Egypt, and much of Persia. He established new systems of taxation, administration, and law that gave the rapidly expanding state a firm foundation. Then came Uthman ibn Affan, whose 12-year period in power continued the outward expansion but also exposed deep divisions within. Uthman's reliance on his own family, the clan of the Umayyads from Mecca, created widespread resentment. Many saw his appointments of governors and officials as acts of favoritism and nepotism. Across the provinces, from Egypt to Iraq, voices of opposition grew louder. Economic grievances sharpened this discontent. The spoils of conquest were not distributed evenly. Older tribal elites who had joined Islam early often clashed with newer converts and soldiers who felt excluded from privilege. Rivalries simmered, not only on the frontiers but even in Medina, the very heart of the community. By the year 656, tension reached a breaking point. Rebels from Egypt and Iraq marched into Medina and laid siege to Uthman in his own home.
Despite attempts at negotiation, violence broke out. Uthman was killed, making him the first successor of Muhammad to die at the hands of fellow Muslims. His death was a turning point. The unity that had held the empire together for nearly a quarter of a century cracked apart. In this atmosphere of crisis, the community turned to Ali ibn Abi Talib, cousin and son-in-law of Muhammad, and raised him as the new leader. When Ali assumed leadership in 656, he inherited not a stable empire, but a fractured one. The assassination of Uthman had left scars across the Muslim world. Some saw Ali as the rightful leader, chosen for his closeness to Muhammad and for his reputation for justice and piety. Others, however, viewed his accession with suspicion, questioning whether he had done enough to prevent Uthman's death. Almost immediately, Ali faced opposition from prominent figures who refused to recognize his authority. Among them were Aisha, the widow of Muhammad, along with 2 senior companions, Talha and Zubair. They argued that before Ali could be accepted as leader, Uthman's killers had to be brought to justice. Ali, however, insisted that stability needed to be restored first, warning that hasty retribution could plunge the empire into deeper chaos. The disagreement escalated into open conflict. In 656, Ali's forces clashed with the forces of Aisha, Talha, and Zubair near the city of Basra in southern Iraq. This confrontation became known as the Battle of the Camel. named after the camel on which Aisha rode in the middle of the battlefield. The fighting was fierce but brief. Ali's side prevailed, and both Talha and Zubair were killed. Aisha was captured but treated with respect, then sent back to Medina. Despite his victory, Ali's position remained precarious. He decided to shift the center of power from Medina to the city of Kufa in Iraq. Kufa was strategically located, close to the Persian frontier and surrounded by a strong population of soldiers who were loyal to him. But this move also symbolized the growing divide within the Muslim world. No longer was Medina the uncontested capital. Authority was now divided between rival centers. From Kufa, Ali attempted to consolidate his rule. He dismissed several governors, appointed by Uthman, and replaced them with his own loyalists. He also tried to push forward reforms to ensure a more equitable distribution of wealth and resources. Yet these decisions only deepened resentment among those who had prospered under Uthman's system. Ali's leadership was thus defined from the beginning by struggle. He was caught between his supporters who demanded reform, his opponents who sought revenge for Uthman, and ambitious rivals who were building their own bases of power. Among these rivals, none was more formidable than the governor of Syria, Muawiya ibn Abi Sufyan. By the year 657, the empire was divided between two powerful centers. In Iraq, Ali ruled from the city of Kufa. In Syria, Muawiya ibn Abi Sufyan, governor of Damascus, refused to recognize Ali's authority until the murderers of Uthman were punished. To Muawiya and his supporters, Ali's refusal to immediately avenge Uthman was proof of weakness, or even complicity. To Ali's followers, Muawiya's stance was nothing less than rebellion against the rightful leader. The stage was set for a direct confrontation. Both sides gathered armies. Ali marched from Iraq with tens of thousands of men, many of them veterans of earlier conquests. Muawiya rallied his Syrian forces, equally determined and fiercely loyal. The two armies met on the banks of the Euphrates River, near a place called Siffin, in what is now northern Syria. The standoff at Siffin lasted for months. At first there were negotiations. Delegates crossed between the two camps, trying to find a compromise. But neither side was willing to yield. Tensions grew, and eventually the stalemate gave way to open battle. The fighting was brutal. For days the battlefield swayed back and forth. At one point, Ali's forces seemed close to breaking Muawiya's army. But then came one of the most dramatic moments in early Islamic history. Muawiya's general Amr ibn al-As ordered his soldiers to raise copies of the Quran on their spears. The message was clear: let God's book decide this conflict, not bloodshed. The gesture sowed confusion in Ali's camp. Many of his soldiers, unwilling to be seen as fighting against the Quran, demanded that he accept arbitration. Ali himself was skeptical. He believed the move was a political trick, designed to save Muawiya from defeat. But under pressure from his own troops, he agreed. The decision to submit the dispute to arbitration weakened Ali's position dramatically. The arbitration process dragged on without resolution, while Muawiya used the time to strengthen his claim. Worse still, a faction within Ali's army, later called the Kharijites, meaning those who withdrew and broke away, denouncing both Ali and Muawiya for accepting human judgment over divine will. Thus, the confrontation at Siffin ended not with a decisive victory, but with deeper division. Ali's authority was undermined, Muawiya's defiance was legitimized, and the unity of the Muslim community slipped even further from reach.